Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, Bearded Nation, to the Bearded Brothers. I'm Matt.
I'm Chris.
This is yet another sports podcast. We are your Bearded Brothers. We are going to start with the news, but I do want to put out right away that this is, again, another different kind of podcast again today, because, you know, we've only got the Super Bowl to review, and free agency hasn't begun yet, so we can't talk about what hasn't happened yet, and it's too soon to do a mock draft, so this is our awards show. And we are going to have some of the standard awards. You're going to get the Rookies of the Year. You're going to get the Most Valuable Player. You're going to get a Comeback Player. But we're also going to do things like Least Valuable Player. We'll get there when we get there, and we'll explain the awards as we go down them. Yes. I think it'll be fun. I think you'll enjoy yourselves. Okay. So let's start with the news, because there's been a shitload of it. There's been an absolute shitload. So, start with a whole bunch of hirings. We have, everybody now has a head coach. Everybody now has a head coach. The Colts went ahead and hired Shane Steichen. I think that's how you say his name.
I have no idea.
They hired the OC of the Eagles, and the Cardinals went out and hired their defensive coordinator, whose name I cannot remember and I didn't bother to write down.
Nope. All I'm going to say about that is, man, okay, well, Eagles, I guess you need a new offensive and defensive coordinator. And now we're going to find out, is it Nick Sirianni that was actually good, or was his coordinators just really good?
We're about to find out. We're about to find out whether or not that belongs to Nick Sirianni or to his coordinators. I will say this. I'm more into the idea that the offensive coordinator is going to do a good job than the defensive one, considering how many times Philadelphia's defense fell apart. Super Bowl notwithstanding.
Well, the funny thing is, it's like their defense actually hasn't been that bad. But the funny thing is that it's just their offense digs them out whenever it does happen. And so it's never been bad enough to be obvious, because they obviously, you win that many games, people are like, oh, you can't have that bad of a defense. You're right. But whenever their defense does make mistakes, their offense typically pulls them out of the hole, you know? Which, they're like another team, but except for less extreme.
Let's see here. The Titans promoted passing game coordinator Tim Kelly to their offensive coordinator position.
Don't know about that one. We'll see.
Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator from Georgia, who's been on fire lately, has just been hired to be the Ravens' new offensive coordinator. I thought he'd be going for a head coaching job and would stick at Georgia another season, but apparently that's not what's going to happen.
Apparently he's okay going to the... Hey, might be a good way to keep Lamar around, possibly.
I agree with that 100%. I think that might induce Lamar to want to stick around, but we'll get there. Let's see here. Other things that are big. Let's see here. Derek, pardon. Derek Carr has been cut officially by the Raiders.
David Carr's his brother.
David Carr's his brother. I knew there was a David Carr.
Yeah,
and I was also listening to a wrestling podcast where they were referencing David Flair. So I have David on the brain. Let's see here. Matt Burke has been made the Burke. Yes, I have Burke written down because I'm an idiot. He's been made the defensive coordinator in Texas for the Texans. Cliff Kingsbury was apparently in talks with Ryans and the Houston Texans to become their offensive coordinator. I haven't heard any more on that.
Nope.
Andy Reid has officially stated he's going to return next season.
Which is not surprising.
No. I mean, a little maybe? Because I thought...
So.
Because he's been talking retirement for a while now.
I know, but I still think he's the type of guy that's like, he's just going to keep going. He's going to keep talking about it, but he's going to keep going because he keeps having such big successes with Patrick.
Yeah, and I'm wondering...
He likes doing what he does, you know?
I'm wondering how much longer Bieniemy's going to stick around there for that.
Well, the funny thing is, I remember seeing something about Reed talking about Bieniemy because somebody had asked him about it. Yeah, and he basically just went, hey, if he sticks around, great. But I just like anybody else, if they end up having to leave to take another opportunity elsewhere because they feel like they have to, more power to them. And I graciously, accept that that's what
I
they might
believe he
want to
said
do.
something like, "I hope he runs the show."
Yeah, he basically says wherever he goes, he hopes that he can be Eric Bieniemy wherever he goes.
Yes.
So
Um, let's see here. We already talked about that one. Oh, Chad Henne has retired officially. Um, the other one that was funny was Melvin Gordon, who won the.
oh
Obviously,
yeah,
now we're going to spoil. Chiefs won the Super Bowl.
yeah.
But Melvin Gordon didn't play a down in that game and still got a ring, and he even made a joke about it. He said, "I didn't do anything. They carried me to a ring."
Yep, pretty much.
But at least he's humorous about it,
Yeah.
So we'll get to the whole Super Bowl thing in a minute. Overall, for the actual NFL awards that were voted on by people that aren't us, Patrick Mahomes won the MVP.
Gee, what a surprise!
What a surprise. I will say, JJ won the Offensive Player of the Year award. Honestly, he probably would have been one of my picks for MVP if he had managed to break the receiving record. I think he'd have won it.
Probably.
But just overall, I looked at that. He was absolutely. I don't know where that team is without JJ. To be completely honest. Let's see here. I don't remember who the Defensive Player of the Year is. I think didn't Hutchinson win Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Wilson from the Jets, I believe, won Offensive Rookie of the Year. I don't agree with that one, by the way. I have a different.
Who with the Jets?
Is his name Wilson?
Are you talking about
Garrett Wilson?
Oh, Garrett Wilson. Yeah, he was okay, but I don't think he was.
Yeah, but I think he won Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Not my pick.
Not my pick either. I have a different one.
Like he wasn't bad, but he certainly
he wasn't bad, but he certainly
like outstanding.
No,
like he was very good for a rookie.
Let's see here. Darrell Revis, Rondé Barber, Zach Thomas, DeMarcus Ware, and Joe Thomas are your latest Hall of Fame inductees for the NFL. I think that's a pretty good list.
It's a pretty good list, yeah.
I think that's a pretty good list. I think all of them. I don't think that anybody would say that those people don't deserve to be Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. Switching leagues now. We have the NBA trade deadline was redonkulous. Literally right after we recorded the last one, the trade deadline went into effect the next day. I went to bed. The Nets were saying they were not going to trade Kevin Durant, and I woke up to the fact that he wasn't a Net anymore. He was now a Phoenix Sun. Everybody went to bed with one thing and woke up with another one, and I was like, holy crap. The deadline was just people flying left, flying right, moving all over the place. I couldn't keep up with it. Literally every 10 minutes, my phone was going off with another major NBA trade. So I'm not going to break them all down here. Chris and I are not huge NBA ball heads, so, good sir, did you know you have a bird on your face?
I do. He does not care.
No, I noticed. He's going to steal our shows.
He will. Someday.
But there was that. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about that I thought was at least interesting to me was that the St. Louis Blues made a major trade. The Blues have been weird all season. They kept a core intact that had them finishing really well last year. In fact, that a couple of years ago took them to a Stanley Cup. And now they're crap. I don't get it. So they went ahead and traded off a major piece from that, which is Vladimir Tarasenko. They traded him and a defenseman to the Rangers, and they got back a prospect, two picks, and a player. So, not a bad move whatsoever, and it makes the Rangers absolutely ridiculous, especially considering that in his first game with the Rangers, Tarasenko scored. And if you're talking about teams trying to make the splash in the East because the East is so packed at the top, the Rangers just did that. I think that's absolutely a fantastic move for them. Now, I promised I was going to do this to you, and so I'm going to ask you, have you seen the new baseball rules?
No.
You haven't?
I haven't looked at any baseball rules, no.
All right. Well, I want to go over these, and I want to get your opinion on them.
Okay.
I think you'll get a kick out of them, if nothing else. Because there are absolutely brand new rules for Major League Baseball this year.
Okay.
The big ones. So, new rule. Alrighty. First off, the shift. The new rule. At the time a pitch is thrown, all 4 infielders are required to be on the infield dirt or infield grass, with 2 on each side of second base. Players will be able to move as soon as the ball leaves the pitcher's hand. Originally, infielders who began the game on one side of the field would not be allowed to switch to the other side for the entirety of the game, but that was revised to just each inning unless there's a mid-inning substitution. In other words, a player who starts an inning at first or second base has to remain on that side of the field for the whole inning, but can switch to short or third base the next inning. If there's an injury mid-inning, the infield can be reset. So no more shift.
That's fine.
That
doesn't bother me that much.
Pitchers will have 15 seconds to throw a pitch with the bases empty and 20 seconds with a runner on base. Hitters will need to be in the batter's box with 8 seconds on the pitch clock. If either of these are failed, if the pitcher does not throw a pitch, the batter is awarded a ball. If the batter is not in the box within that final 8 seconds, then the pitcher is awarded a strike.
I think that's really bad. That's really bad.
They're trying to speed the game up, is what they're trying to do. And I agree with you, by the way.
I get trying to speed the game up. The game isn't meant to be sped up. Don't artificially try to inflate it to make it more watchable. People who are already watching it love it for what it is, and you're not going to get new fans that way. Like, that's what this smells of. This smells like they're trying to speed it up to make it more interesting to watch.
Here's another one.
But that's not going to work.
No, and here's another one. Pickoffs are one version of a disengagement, which consists of any time the pitcher makes a pickoff attempt, fakes a pickoff, or simply steps off the rubber for any reason, as well as when the defense requests time. Pitchers are allowed 2 disengagement per plate appearance without penalty. The disengagements rule resets if a runner or runners advance a base within the same plate appearance. In other words, I can only attempt to pick off the runner at first twice in a plate appearance, unless he steals second, at which point in time that resets and I can attempt more pickoffs.
That makes no sense because that gives the runner such a huge advantage. If the runner can just make them try to pick him off twice, then he knows he's safe to run after that.
Yep.
That's
unless
retarded.
the catcher is amazing. Also, you're gonna
but there's only a couple catchers who can actually make a really good throw from home to fucking second, like in a speedy fashion. There's not that many.
And here's going to be the one that would make you even more pissed off about it. The size of the bases will be increased from 15 inches to 18 inches.
Bro, let's give the runners a fucking easy steals all day long to second. All right.
That's more or less what this is.
That's
about
what it
now.
is.
Yeah.
This is who's gonna be the steal second most.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Alex Cora, the manager of the Red Sox, has said that the bases now look like pizza boxes out there on the field.
Yeah, I imagine they would. I mean,
now some of that, I will say for the bases, some of that is, they tested it in the minors, and apparently it brought down certain injuries. And not having to run quite as hard or dive a specific way.
I was gonna say I would love to see the correlation on that to prove that 100% that it did actually reduce. Like diving, saying that you can run slower now seems that's a really counterintuitive.
I don't think that's
right?
what it is. I think it's the fact that
You know?
the base has. So if I'm playing second and I'm waiting for a pickoff, the base is now big enough for me to have my foot on it while allowing the runner to tag up and slide past without having to worry about him hitting me.
Yeah, but at the same time, that was kind of the point. The point was supposed to be a bit aggressive to try to pick people off so that they could, you could cover the base. That was the whole point.
Yes, but it also led to a rash, especially these days with people getting bigger and faster. It led to more people being injured.
Yeah, but now it just makes it easier. So it makes it so it's just people should just steal all day long because they almost can't.
Yeah, I could only imagine how
You see what
many
I'm saying?
steals.
Like,
I
I
can
just
only
feel like
imagine
there's
how many
gotta be-
steals somebody like Ricky Henderson would have had with these rules
Yeah.
in effect.
That's what I'm trying to say. Is that I think like I
They're
get what
trying
your
to
point
speed
is.
the game up, and I think like
They're
I can
trying to
get
be
I can get the
I
bigger bases. I like the bigger
Yeah.
bases idea. I don't like the pickoff thing, and I don't,
don't
like
even-
the pitch thrower. And I can get behind the no shift thing, like get rid of the shift.
The
I
shift
can-
never really bothered me one way or the other.
It
I-
didn't me either. My viewpoint on it was always kind of more. If the shift bothers you, learn to hit the opposite way.
Yeah, pretty much.
Stop trying
it's
to pull
just-
everything.
My other problem, like I guess, so I get the idea behind the bigger bases. Like I see what you're trying to get at, but I still don't. That won't stop. I still don't think that'll stop those kinds of injuries. I just don't see any type of numerical proof for that. Like in my mind, it just doesn't make sense. Like I get what you're trying to point across, but I feel like if you're still gonna slide, you're still gonna slide. Like it doesn't matter how much of the, like you're still gonna hit the base. You're still gonna run into people. Like it's still gonna happen.
Yeah, but it's going to happen less now. Is what I think the deal is.
I think
It was
that's
like
what
when
they're
they got
trying
rid
to
of the
imply, but I
collisions
don't-
at home plate.
Which, by the way, I think that was still dumb. I think the thing is, like, here, I'll put it this way: as a player who plays those sports, like I don't obviously play those sports, not anymore, anyways. And then when I did, it was very small. You accept that what you're getting into might result into some injuries, and you knowingly go in knowing that. So I understand certain precautions that you try to avoid. Like, obviously in football with CTE and stuff like that, that's some life-altering shit real bad, too. But, like, in baseball, for example, there are injuries that are bad, but most of them aren't going to be super life-altering outside of, like, broken legs and arms. And even then, you can live with that.
Yeah, but that
I
can
think-
also be life-altering in the terms of you can't play anymore.
It can. Yeah, that is possible. And in those cases, those players make enough money, and they get good insurances where they can still live a life. CTE, like, it takes away your mental ability, is what I'm saying. Like, they don't have, like, they start losing who they are in their head. which
That
I
is
think
100%
more important than a
correct,
body
yes.
problem, right? So I think that's more important than a body problem. So put it this way, is what I'm trying to get across is that you accept certain conditions. And the league is setting up to try to prevent injuries because they want to protect not just the players, but they don't want to have to deal with any angry fans about getting, people cracking down on like, oh, but there's injuries in this sport. There's injuries in every sport. There are some that are worse than others, obviously. But I think when you try to get rid of all injuries, then you have no good sport anymore.
I don't
it
think-
loses the enjoyment factor for a lot of people. And I'm not saying it's the injuries themselves. I'm saying it's the sportsmanship, the enjoyment. You lose some of that when you get rid of some of these things that are to prevent injuries is what I'm saying.
So I don't think they're trying to get rid of all injuries, and they've accepted that they are never going to prevent every
No,
injury.
you
But
can't, anyways.
If I can take steps to prevent some of the injuries that are happening, and I now have data because I tried this in the minors, and this did seem to drop injuries, I would have wanted to try it longer, me personally. I think I
Yeah,
would have wanted to do it several more
well,
years.
that's what I'm saying, yeah.
My feeling on all this is I want to give it a chance this year and see if it's any good. If it winds
I'm
up
just-
ruining the sport this year, at least they only ruined it this year and they
Oh,
can revert it.
I don't think it'll ruin it. I think, well, maybe the pickoff thing could, depending on how you look at it. But I don't think necessarily the larger bases will get rid of that. I just think that, like, when it comes to enjoying the game, the extreme sportsmanship is enjoyable for a lot of people. That's why I love football. So when you trying to get rid of collisions and you try to get rid of all of that kind of stuff, like, I can understand some of that you want to temper. But, like, at home plate, like, come on. That was fun as hell watching that every time. And when they got rid of that, it's not as enjoyable. You can't tell me it's not. Like, it just is.
You had a couple of concussions, and
I
one of
know.
the best catchers in the game broke his leg, and I mean, you have
Yeah,
to.
it happons.
Well, the point
It
is,
happens.
though, these guys are also stars, and you have to look at them as
It
more
happened.
than
It happened 50, 100 years ago. It wasn't a problem then.
1,500.
No, 50 to 100. Not 1,500.
Thank you. I was
50
going to say
to 100.
1,500. What the fuck
No.
is wrong with you?
50
And I don't
to
think it
100
happened
years
that
ago.
badly back then because guys, I'm not
think
going to
it
say
did.
they weren't as athletic, but they, statistically speaking, each generation gets a little larger, a little faster, a little more athletic than the one before it because we learn more about ourselves and about the body.
I get where you're coming from. I think we lose some of the enjoyment factor when we try to limit down as much. Like, I can understand taking certain steps and certain precautions, like, for example, for football, like making their helmets a little bit better. Maybe not hitting each other head to head is probably a good idea. I think a lot of people can agree with that.
And they had
so,
other
for
rules
example,
50 to 100 years ago that people thought were going to ruin the game. Let me give you one that they got rid of.
no, I know.
Back in the day, if you fouled off a third strike, you were out.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm not saying, again, that's a rule. I'm not talking about a rule. Like, I'm talking more like injuries in general, like dealing with injuries. I just think there are certain things that maybe you don't want to mess with too much, and before it starts to compromise certain people's enjoyment. That's all I'm saying.
I get that. They also did move the mound back at one point because there were some pitchers who could throw so hard they were actually hurting their catchers.
They're hurting the catchers. Yeah, I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Toughen up, catchers.
So you get where this isn't the first example of it, and it probably won't be the last.
No, there are certain things that will always change for all sports. That's just the way it is. I just think that there are certain things that when you change them, you have to be careful because they're like, when you mess with the bases, for example, like that's such a mainstay of the sport. Like that's a real weird thing to mess with too much. And if you mess with it too much, it can cause an issue, right?
And we'll have to see.
So
we'll have to see kind of how that
I feel like
affects the game.
Like I feel like next year I could be wrong, but I feel like we're gonna see like some really high scoring games.
I think so too. I also think we're gonna see some ridiculous stolen base counts.
Yeah.
Did he bite you again?
No, just being a general nuisance. Just decided I wanted a little time away. He'll fly back later. It's fine.
Yeah, there you go. No, so I think you're right, though. I think we'll have to see how this all works out. I do think that messing with the bases is...
I mean, it might not have any issue. Yeah, it might not have any... It might not matter. It might be fine, and I might be just blowing it up a little bit, but I just think maybe it's not the best of decisions, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, all time will tell.
Yep, there you go. All right, so with that said, we should probably talk about the Pooper Bowl.
The Pooper Bowl. I mean, it was mostly good, to be fair.
It was a pretty good game, to be completely fair with everybody.
For the majority of the game was enjoyable. Good back and forth.
The majority of the game was very enjoyable. You know what I think was the most... I will say the Chiefs won. 37-34, I believe, was the final score. It was a very good back-and-forth game. The biggest problem that people have is the holding call at the end of the game. That leads into kind of what I wanted to say anyway, which was I like the fact that after the end of that game, the Eagles didn't make an excuse out of it. They didn't say, "Oh, that call
most of them
us,"
did anyways,
or anything else.
Yeah.
For the most part, even the guy who had the flag thrown on him said, "No, that was a hold. I had a hold of his jersey."
Yeah, I mean, he did grab the hold of the jersey. It's not a traditional hold in the way that, like, most time that doesn't get called.
It does normally not. And honestly, it's the Super Bowl. I think you should swallow that flag. But he 100% took.
That's what I'm saying. He kind of took it on the chin. He's like,
took it on the chin. No, I held that. It can get called, and it did.
Yeah.
And nobody said, "Oh, we got screwed." Even Jalen Hurts was like, "I'm just thinking about how we can do better." And I will say that they missed a blatant face mask when he fumbled, but I mean, that's 2020 hindsight, and if we had that superpower, if everybody had that superpower that we could see foresight, I think we'd all know. But
and then like I think the other reason why they didn't like make a big deal out of the hold is because, guys, it really didn't matter if they got that hold or not.
It did. So I'll point out.
It really didn't.
No, I'll point out. Here's what I'll point out. That was, I believe that was a third down play, so they would have had to kick the field goal there. And it would have stopped the clock as well. And they'd have still had the 2-minute warning. So they have to kick the field goal, unless they're going to go for it. But my guess is they kick the field goal. And then you still have a 2-minute drill with Hurts to go down and tie or win the game. I mean, even if they go for it, and make it, it's a moot point. But if they don't, from the distance they're at, and you take the points to try to win the game.
I don't think that was a third down play, though. And that's where I think if memory serves right, that wasn't a third down play, but I want to double check.
I could be wrong. It's been a while.
It was third down,
Okay. So that was a third down play. If they force them into fourth down there, they're either going to kick the field goal or they have to try.
It was a third. So here's the thing: it was a 3rd and 8 from the Phillies' 18 or 15-yard line. 3rd and 8 at the Phillies' 15.
Yes, no, they're going to kick the field goal, or they're going to go for it. Either way, then you have a 4th and 8.
Yeah,
but you're not in a 4th and 8. You're not trying for it.
There's a minute 54 left. 2-minute warning's already passed.
All right, my bad. But I think at that point, Philly still had a timeout left as well.
So, yeah. But what I'm saying is, if you remember, if my memory serves right, hold on. Gotta double check.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, from my understanding, remember Patrick threw the ball. It was nowhere near Juju, like not even close.
Nope.
From my understanding is that he threw it away because he knew the call was coming, or he saw the flag or something, right? Because I think originally he was supposed to catch, like he was supposed to target him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he ended up tossing it.
That's supposition.
Not that close.
We don't know that.
So we don't know 100%. But what my point is that
because he was also under pressure when he threw that ball.
If that call doesn't happen, there's a chance that that they end up getting the reception. So we don't know. We don't know if the reception happens naturally if there is no holding of any kind. 1, 2. I would not be surprised by Andy Reid to do a gutsy play and possibly go for it, but maybe not. Or at the bare minimum, they could hard count and try to hard count him off, and that could have happened too. And even if they don't get that, they run the clock down, probably another 20 seconds before, or they probably run the clock, call a timeout, just like no, it would be 4th down, so they couldn't do the timeout. But
they also cannot run the clock because if that reception doesn't happen and it is a miss like that, the clock is stopped. There's no way to run the clock down.
But
so you stop the clock at a minute and 54, and you're either going to have to go for it or kick the field goal.
Yeah.
My guess is it's the Super Bowl. Reed doesn't go for it. He's going to kick the field goal, especially with the quarterback who's injured, who was just put under a crap ton of pressure. So you're going to kick that field goal. Now you have a minute and 50-ish, minute and 40. Let's say a minute and 40 after the kickoff and the return. For Jalen to try to get the other team down, for Jalen to try to get the Eagles down the field and maybe tie the game or score the winning touchdown or do something ridiculous.
Maybe. Or, to be fair, there's also the argument that Andy does go for it because you're on Phillies 15. If you cough up the ball here, they have to go a long ways still to be able to get the field goal.
I could completely get that, but also if you cough up the ball there, even if they don't go the whole ways, it's still a tie game. You don't win, you're still going to overtime. So Philly doesn't really have to go a long ways. They can send it to overtime. They just have to not turn the ball over.
I don't know. I'll put it this way, to be honest with you, I just didn't see, especially at the end of the game. Here's the thing. I don't know if you caught the same thing that I did, but at the end of the game, when Jalen had the one last throw, to try to toss it down the field. I don't know if you noticed, but he was very much in pain when he threw that ball.
Yeah, he was definitely.
And that's why,
hurting.
and that's why the ball did not go nearly as far as you would have expected.
I don't think he was trying to throw it. I think he knew, and everybody knew at that point that it was pretty much over.
He was in a lot of pain, and I think he admitted that he was having that shoulder injury that was still affecting him. He was only at 80% going into the game, just like Patrick said, basically, right? Not at 100%. And I bet you over the course of that game, it started to get worse.
Oh, yeah, I'll bet you he aggravated it. It would not have surprised me. But you know what?
So, honestly, by the end of the game, who knows? Who knows if, even if Kansas City gives back the ball there, he might not have had enough to continue really pushing much.
Well, and he might not have with his arm, but who knows with his legs? Because that dude...
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
Whew.
But then in the second half, Kansas City Kansas City's defense was getting better. Was it Kansas City defense getting better, or was Jalen Hurts getting a little worse because he was getting more? That is
the question there.
So ultimately, I don't think that call changes the game. Like maybe it changes how the outcome happens, but I don't think the outcome really changes.
He still threw for 304 yards.
No, exactly. It was
ran for 70 and 3 touchdowns.
I think that's why it was getting worse, is because he was just really pumping so much into that, right?
Yeah.
The more he threw, the more it's gonna get hurt.
Yeah, probably. But still, overall,
I'm not saying he got bad, not at all. But
at all. But overall, incredibly good game, fun to watch. We were wrong. We both thought the Eagles would win. Kansas City came out there, guts through it. And, very close game. Yeah. Kansas City came out and gutted through it. Mahomes came out and gutted through his injury, and so did Jalen Hurts. Props off to both those young men. I think we're watching at the future quarterbacks for a long time to come. They're both amazing quarterbacks.
As long as nobody gets injured.
Well,
Knock on wood.
That is a thing. All right.
Because, as much as I want to say, Lamar Jackson should be in that vote, the problem is I think he just gets injured too much.
He does, sadly. He gets injured quite a bit, which I think is...
Tua is starting to get better. But, man, you want to talk about somebody who can only receive concussions when he gets hit, apparently.
Well, and we're about to talk about all of that, I think. Let's move into our awards segment. So, I do want to point out that we'll explain every awards we get to it, except the ones that are obvious. If we say most valuable player, or AFC Offensive Rookie of the Year, or comeback Player of the Year, you guys shouldn't need an explanation of what those are. But when we get to the esoteric ones, especially ones we've named, like we have a Ryan Leaf Award, we will explain what...
Some of you might already know what that means.
Some of you might know what that means, others of you don't. And we will explain them. The Light Bulb Award, the Setting Sun Award... All of these things are things that we will talk about and explain. So, let's start with the easy one. Let's talk about the MVP.
All right.
You can
go
start.
First, or me go?
You can start, because I know yours is going to be different than mine.
Yes, mine's different than yours. I don't actually know that 100%. You don't know what mine is. I don't know what yours is.
I'm almost certain what yours is.
I don't think you do, because I've changed it 3 times. So the last time I talked to you, you probably assumed I was going to say Joe Burrow's the MVP.
Nope.
Which Joe Burrow is a very good option. He played very well and arguably should have been in that Super Bowl instead of Patrick Mahomes. I could see somebody being like, well, Patrick Mahomes is the MVP, but I'm tired of seeing Patrick Mahomes all the fucking MVP all the goddamn time. Jalen Hurts would be an excellent MVP candidate, in fact, but he's also not my MVP.
I'm going to guess that your MVP wears purple and gold and plays the position of wide receiver.
He might just do that, and his name might just be Justin Jefferson. It's very possible.
See, I told you I knew who you were going to pick.
Listen, 128 receptions, 1,809 yards with 8 touchdowns in the season. I mean, he is... that's just hard to beat, right? That's really good. It's really good. And he could have easily gotten more if Kirk Cousins didn't decide to just stop throwing to him sometimes. He could have easily broken 2,000, to be honest with you, but fucking Kirk Cousins, man.
Yeah, what can you do?
but he just continuously improves every year. It's hard to ignore.
Oh, 100%. I'm not saying that's a bad pick. I 100% agree with your pick. But mine is going to be the boring pick.
Yeah, I figured.
I got to go with a guy who threw for 5,250 yards, 41 touchdowns, had a QBR of 77.6 and a rating of 105.2 and only 12 interceptions. Oh, and he won the Super Bowl on a bad angle. His name is Patrick Mahomes. Look, I get it. And I got to looking at it because you're right about Jefferson. Where would the Vikings be without him?
Yeah.
But I say the same thing. Where would the frickin' Chiefs be without Mahomes?
I mean, listen, you got.
Are they winning the Super Bowl without Patrick Mahomes?
With an average QB, yes.
I still don't.
The
think
rest
so.
the rest of that roster is. Listen, all I'm saying is the rest of that roster is really good. I think they could still win a Super Bowl without Patrick with a different QB. Now I'll say this: Patrick makes it so that they don't have to have all that, and Patrick gets them out of sticky situations all the time. Not disagreeing with you there at all.
Yeah, I don't think they.
So
win
I'm not
this
saying
Super
Patrick
Bowl.
isn't
Look,
good.
I don't think they win the Super Bowl they just played in without Patrick Mahomes.
Arguable, but not by much. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the point that I'm making. To me, just I can't. I looked at the potential of Jalen Hurts as well because when he wasn't playing, his team looked like total trash. And they got stepped on by a couple of teams, and so I could say okay, with him out of the lineup, they obviously don't look very good. But in the end, I didn't have that to go off of with Mahomes because he didn't miss games. So in the end, I had to look at it and go, all right, nah. But your choice isn't bad either. In fact, there were 3 or 4 or 5 guys who legitimately could have been MVP this year.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And I went with the safe, boring option. So, all right, let's do... You know what? Let's do our rookies. You ready?
Can I go to the rookies?
Yeah, let's do the NFC Rookie of the Year and NFC Defensive Rookie of the Year, and then the 2 AFC guys. And then let's do the comeback and the most improved, and then we'll get into everything else. How does that sound?
Yep.
Alrighty, so go ahead and do your NFC Offensive Rookie of the Year.
All right, so my NFC Offensive Rookie of the Year is, he's a wide receiver. So just to be completely honest with you, he is a wide receiver.
Olave?
I'm sure it is Chris Olave. Yeah.
Not a bad
Chris
choice.
Olave,
Not who I picked, but he was up there for me.
72 catches, 1,042 yards. In comparison to JJ's first year, JJ had 1,400 yards. So certainly not bad in comparisons. And Chris Olave only had 4 touchdowns, but I mean, with that many yards and that many catches, it's clear that the Saints doesn't have much, but they got Chris Olave.
No, you're 100% right. And I certainly will not disparage you for picking that. That's a very good choice for that. Unfortunately, not my choice.
To be fair, the people that I picked, I did try to purposely pick ones that I thought that maybe you wouldn't pick because I didn't want to have too many of the similarities.
Well, because I literally narrowed it down to Olave, Drake London.
Yep, he was on my list too.
And my eventual winner, Kenneth Walker III.
I thought about him for a second, but I just didn't pull the trigger on it. I didn't believe him.
228 attempts, 1,050 yards rushing, and 9 touchdowns. Oh, and by the way, he didn't start playing until like week 6 or 7 when they lost Rashad Penny. He wasn't even a starter until then.
Yeah, I didn't pick him, but he's definitely good.
Yeah, you know what? I think they found their running back of the future with Walker.
Probably.
And I would love to see what he's going to do in a full season.
Sure.
I think that's going to be fun to watch.
Yep. All right, defensive rookie, NFC defensive, right?
NFC Defensive Rookie of the Year.
All right, I went super boring. Everyone knows who the fuck it is. It's Aiden Hutchinson. I'm not even going to give you stats. Everyone knows who it is.
You know what? I'm going to agree with you. And it was between Aiden Hutchinson and Tariq Woolen.
Yeah,
those were the only 2 names on my list. But in the end, Aiden Hutchinson just had a more impressive overall resume to me than Woolen did. Not to say Woolen had a bad year, but just Aiden Hutchinson lit that shit up.
Yeah, for real.
All right. AFC Offensive Rookie of the Year.
AFC.
This was a lot harder for me to find one that I liked, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
This one was pretty easy for me. This one was actually pretty easy for me. AFC Offensive Player of the Year is I picked somebody who I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, which I think is criminal in my opinion, based upon because it's a guy I haven't heard a lot of, and looking at his stats, I don't know how no one's talking about this player. It's really crazy to me.
Does he wear blue, and
No.
play the position of running back?
He doesn't wear blue, but he is position running back.
You sure he doesn't wear blue?
I'm pretty
Blue
sure
and
he
red?
doesn't wear blue. It's not blue and red. It's black and red, but it's not blue.
I think it is blue.
I don't think it's blue.
I think it's blue. But go
It
ahead
can't
and
be
tell me
blue.
who you have.
The Falcons don't wear blue.
Oh, you're talking about him. Okay. No, I get that one.
I talk about Tyler Algier. God, his last name's hard to say. Algier, my bad. 210 rushes, 1,035 yards, average of 4.9 yards, 3 touchdowns, 16 catches at 139 yards, and an additional touchdown. I'm just saying. I barely heard about this guy. I'm looking at his stats. Like that's some damn good stats for a rookie.
No, you're not. You aren't wrong at all. Very, very. Overall, I think fantastic season for him. Let me see. There we go. Let me see here.
I mean, I'll put it this way. Like, I was originally thinking about putting Pierce possibly as a good running back, right? He was in my, thought process, right? But in comparison, as a rusher, he rushed for 220 attempts.
Yards. But he also missed the final
yards.
couple of games where I think he was
injured. He did, but he had 220 attempts. He already had 10 more attempts with less yards. And he didn't. Now, granted, he also received more, but he received 30 times for 165 yards, where Tyler only caught 16 catches for 139. All I'm saying is he did less he did less but more at the same time. So
I get that. All right. So
So who do you got for AFC offense? Because I know that you were having a hard time.
I was, but I went with a different option.
Okay.
I actually ended up with a guy who played his first game September 11th in Baltimore. I don't know if that's when the season opened or not. I don't even know if he played all the games. I don't know. I don't remember if he was injured to start the season or not.
Okay.
In the end, he would catch 83 receptions for 1,103 yards and 4 touchdowns on a team that had a surprising resurgence. He plays the position of wide receiver from Ohio State. It is Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson, yeah.
Which, you got to be honest, that's a position where traditionally, especially recently, the Jets have had a major weakness. They haven't had good wide receivers, and Wilson looks like the real deal.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree. I just don't think he's.
I don't think he's better than
good.
certain other.
I don't think he's better,
rookies.
but he's good.
Yeah, and I agree with you 110%, which is why I was like, yeah. But you know what? He wound up being the guy, and I looked at both Pierce and I looked at Algiers because Algiers especially came on strong at the end of the season. Yeah. And so I looked at both of them and I thought, okay, that's not bad. But yeah, no. In the end, I went with Garrett Wilson.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not gonna lie. I did slightly weigh where they got picked, like to determine slightly how, like, just a slight weight. So for me, Wilson was drafted in the first round?
I believe so. Yes.
Tyler was drafted in the 5th.
Yeah.
So to me, when I look at that, I go, oh, this is somebody who is outperforming expectations. Where Garrett is performing what you would expect for a first round solid wide receiver. Right?
Yeah, kind of. But
So
even
for
first
me, I
round, the
weighed that
thing
just a
is,
little
even
bit.
your first round wide receivers sometimes end up being garbage.
They can be. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I said I only weighed that just a little bit, and that's why Tyler just ultimately ended up making my cut. Is just because that slight
I
weight.
get it.
Yeah.
All right, who's your defensive rookie of the year in the AFC?
Jeez, who do you think it is?
Oh, gee, I think we probably have the same one because I think he plays on the same team as Garrett Wilson. Ahmad Sauce Gardner.
Sauce, bro.
Get the sauce.
Fucking sauce, bro.
Like,
fucking
let's
sauce,
be
man.
honest. That dude took the league by storm. Fantastic cornerback. Shut down everybody this year. They haven't had a cornerback this good since Darrell Rivas.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
Not even going to question that.
Total revamp for the Jets.
Yeah.
Just based on Wilson. Wilson, the kid they have for running back who got hurt. And I think, honestly, if he doesn't get hurt...
Bryce Hall,
Young?
right? I thought it was Hall.
Bryce Hall? Bryce Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bryce Hall. If Bryce Hall doesn't get hurt, he's probably Rookie of the Year.
Probably. You know, the funny thing is, I looked at his stats. For as little as he played, those stats look good.
Oh, absolutely. He doesn't get hurt, he's probably Rookie of the Year. But let's be honest. Bryce Hall and Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner, that is a revamp of a team. All you need now is a quarterback
solid
to bring
QB
it all
in there.
together. Yeah. Dude, that's going to be a very frightening team. All right, let's look at who was your most improved player of the year.
So, I thought about this for a while, and
really? It only took me about 3 seconds.
Yeah, the thing is, I had ideas of who I wanted to put here, and the thing is, did I choose it as expected for me? Absolutely. Is it the right call? 100%. Arguable, but I did choose Trevor Lawrence as my most improved player.
Guess what?
On brand.
No, guess what?
Is that who you chose?
That's who I chose. I looked at him and I went, compared to what he did last year.
Yeah, here, just for stats, I mean, okay, we're talking 66% completion percentage versus 59, 4,113 yards versus 3,600 yards, 25 TDs versus 12, and 8 interceptions versus 17, with a QB rating change of 95 versus 71.
Yeah.
Like...
100% looked way...
You're being loud, dude. I like how he just gets quiet.
The funny part is he just went, oh crap, Dad's mad.
Why are you so loud? You done now? Okay. We'll start again, but it's fine. Sorry.
But no.
Go ahead.
100%, because I looked at how he looked last year, and he looked, did not look like the first overall pick for a QB. Looked lost, looked despondent. And this year, finally, he didn't look great at first, but by the end of the season, he looked like the kid from Clemson who was going to set the world on fire. He had that big $1 million smile with his long blonde locks flowing in the wind.
And that fucking cannon of an arm, dude.
Oh, absolutely. And so other news that came out is Ridley did apply for reinstatement to the league. If they allow him to reinstate himself to the league this year, that's just another weapon for Lawrence to chuck the ball to. They're going to be scary.
One he's really going to need, too.
Yeah. I don't know how many of their guys are going to be able to keep with the cap crunch.
Yeah.
But, regardless, I think that's going to be... He's definitely my most improved as well. I don't think that there's anybody else that you could put there.
I'm sure there are a couple, but...
Let's talk about the comeback player of the year.
Okay, so... I know who you probably chose. I think I could have picked the same person, but I didn't. I chose somebody else. And you might be saying, when I tell you who it is, you might be going, what? That player, you can't quantify that as a comeback. But I'm going to try to convince you, and you're probably still going to disagree with me. And
Go ahead.
And I just accept that that's just the way it is.
No, go ahead.
So my comeback player of the year is Patrick Peterson.
No, I totally get it.
So here it is. He had 66 tackles, most in his career for this year, ever. 5 interceptions, second most. First is 7 interceptions in 2012. 92 yards gained off of interceptions, most in his career. And in 21, he had only 45 tackles in comparison, 1 interception, 66 yards, and 1 TD off of that interception. And in 2020, he had 61 tackles, 3 interceptions for only 7 yards. And in the combination of 19 and 18, he had 53 and 54 tackles, 2 interceptions on both years, and then 0 yards. So if you compare, as all I'm saying is that he had a lull. He had quite a bit of a lull there in 1918. 20, he was still okay. 21, he definitely had a fall off his first year with the Vikings. And this year was a big comeback back to that, what you saw from him in the early years in the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm. I did not expect him to have the stats that he had this year. I can completely understand how you would label that a comeback, because to me, that epitomizes it. You had a guy who kind of looked like he was falling off and getting old, and then he had, bam! He figured something out about how to play with his age now. Rather than relying on athleticism, I think he's relying on up here. He's reading plays a lot better. And I think that's helping him out at his later stages of his career. A lot of the greats figure that out. They figure out how to read the play. They don't rely on their athletic speed anymore. They figure out how to read the play. 100%. For me, it's going to be the obvious pick. Geno.
Okay.
Geno Smith. I don't know how you could say that doesn't qualify to me.
Oh, it definitely does, yeah.
Dude was almost out of football after being a second-round pick and supposedly going to be the savior of the Jets franchise. One in a long line of mini quarterbacks who were supposed to be the savior of the Jets franchise.
Yeah, great.
And finally this year, he looked like the guy that everybody thought that he was coming out of West Virginia. Bully up to Geno for stepping up to the plate and making Pete Carroll look like a genius.
He also never gave up. I'll give him credit for that. Never gave up.
Never gave up. Never quit. Never. You may have been out of the league a couple of years, and I think he played some time up in the CHL.
Yeah.
But you always fought every year for that NFL contract, and you finally made it work, and you've earned yourself a payday. Somebody's going to pay you big money. Whether or not that translates into better stats again next year, or whether or not you completely disappear, who knows? But for this one season,
you had the one good year at least.
You've earned yourself a payday. Good job. All right, let's move into some of ours. So let's have some fun, and we'll start with the opposite of the MVP. Let's start with the LVP, which stands for the least valuable player. My criteria on this for somebody that's getting paid good money to be a big-time player and just is not living up to any of it. So in the end, he's the guy that is your least valuable player.
So just to encapsulate that, we're not choosing somebody from the 53-man roster, or well, I guess technically we are, but we're not choosing somebody from like third or fourth string. Heck, I'm not even choosing somebody from a second string. Like, it's got to be somebody who plays all the time, you know, who's all of a sudden, for whatever reason this year, just isn't looking good or didn't look good even before, and just, why is he still playing? Like, what's going on?
What's going on?
And my choice, you know, I think is hilarious, because I think you'll agree with me. I don't know if it's what you chose. You probably isn't, but I still think it's hilarious. My least valuable player is Brett Maher.
Okay.
Maher missed 8 extra points this season, including the playoffs. That's the most by a kicker since 1981, when David Trout of Pittsburgh Steelers missed 8. And only 2 kickers in the Super Bowl era has failed on 9 extra points in their season, which was Tom Dempsey in 1976 and Fred Cox in 1974. So having 8 missed is one back from being one of the worst. So it's kind of hard not to be like, man, that don't look good, bro.
All right, my least valuable player was the subject of quite a bit of controversy before the year even started.
Jeez, what a surprise.
Lot of controversy, especially involving his new contract. Because apparently they wanted to put a thing in there that would force him to study film. Because apparently he doesn't like to do that.
Not gonna lie to you, I thought about putting him in as my LVP, but I didn't because I thought you might.
And I absolutely did. And for those of you that don't know, it is Kyler Murray. Here's a guy who threw for 2,368 yards, 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and had a 51.5 QBR. Yeah, but he only played 70. I don't give a fuck. Okay?
The
dude had an 87.2
year,
rating for what he did this last year. He looked like ass.
I was gonna say, if you look at him last year, I bet his stats were way better from last year.
You know what? I'll bet you if I wanted to go back a season and look at them, they probably were, but I'm not going to do that right now. The point is, to me, Kyler Murray signed a huge extension. He signed the big money deal that he wanted. And then he got his coach fired.
And played like shit.
Until he got hurt. And he may not even be around to start the beginning of next season because of his injury.
Yep.
So, I don't know what you're going to do with him. I think he looked like...
I don't know what the Eagles... sorry. I guess he's
Cardinals.
not the Eagles' defensive coordinator anymore, but I don't know what the Cardinals' new head coach is going to do. Like, we were saying, what Kyler needs is someone who's going to be a kind of an authoritarian figure. I don't know if this is the guy.
I don't either.
I
don't know if this is going to work out well for them or not. This might be another short coaching stint, buddy.
I was going to say, I'm worried about a one and done with this guy. I'm not going to lie.
Me too.
I'm not going to lie.
Me too. All right. Let's go to the Peyton Hillis Award.
Peyton Hillis Award. Let me see.
For those of you that don't understand, Peyton Hillis had one amazing season and then completely disappeared off the face of the planet. So it is the reward for the player who is the most regressed. What player had an amazing season that you thought was going to be amazing the following seasons? They put him on the cover of the video games, and then he just completely falls apart.
I feel bad doing this one. I don't want to do this one. I want to make it clear that I wrote down this name prior to like a week ago. Like it was somebody who I knew I wanted to put down, and now I feel bad. It's Tom Brady. His this year was really bad in comparison to his all previous years, pretty much.
I can't say you're wrong.
And that playoffs was really abysmal.
Yeah.
And he's been on plenty of Madden covers, so it kind of works, and I feel gross about it. I really do, because like he's come on, obviously he's retiring. He can't come back from it, and his last award I'm giving him is the most regressed player.
But
I feel a little dirty about it.
But you know what? Eat it. If you realize it, just go ahead. Yeah, no, that's fair.
I mean, in my mind it is. I still feel bad about it, but I mean, he didn't play well, man. He just did.
So I'm going to go in a different direction. Mine is a guy that some people have never actually heard of.
That sounds like cheating, but all right.
Well, it's not. It's because of who he played for.
Okay.
I am choosing a guy in his first year, his rookie year. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
His rookie year stats were the following. He rushed 240 times for 1,070 yards and 7 touchdowns. And he had 49 receptions for 344 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
His second year, which would have been not last year, year before last, he rushed 164 times for 767 yards and 8 touchdowns. And he had 31 receptions for 222 yards and no touchdowns. And then this last year, he got traded, and he would rush a total of 110 times for 425 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he would have 11 receptions for 51 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I am talking about running back James Robinson. You go from 1,000 yards your rookie season and a decent amount of receptions and a good amount of touchdowns to 400 yards.
Clearly, whatever team he was on first knew how to use him properly.
Jacksonville. Jacksonville.
Where'd he go?
The Jets.
Nice, Jets. Well done. You ruined a player again.
But Jacksonville also, like, their first two, like, he dropped 300 yards his second year and a bunch of touches. But we could somewhat probably blame that on Urban Meyer.
That shitty, I was going to say, that shitty coaching staff he had.
But also, Urban Meyer picked ETN. You had James Robinson already, and Meyer went out and grabbed Travis Etienne. So you can't, like, at that point, we all knew Robinson's days in the system were numbered anyway. But the point is, you took a dude who had 1,000 yards, and now he has 400.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's his confidence because of what happened with ATN and Meyer. I don't know if it's his confidence because the Jets stunk. I don't know. I don't know what he needs, but he needs to figure something out, and maybe he can make a comeback. But for right now, the most regressed player, James Robinson. You went from 1,000-yard back to a 500-yard back. Try to find it, my guy. You've got time, but right now, you're the Peyton Hillis Award recipient.
It might be, like I said, it might be that system. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe he just doesn't work well in that system.
Could be. Alrighty. Let's look at the Ryan Leaf Award. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Ryan Leaf was the second overall pick in the draft behind Peyton Manning and completely bombed out of the league in like 5 years.
Yeah.
I think he even did time in jail.
I don't know if he did. He's got a sports podcast that's actually pretty interesting, by the way.
Yeah, he does. So he's actually like
he's admitted that he's reformed, and he's like, if you watch his stuff, you can tell that he's much more calm and
very
collected.
Much so than what he was. And in fact, he fills in for Rich Eisen quite a bit when Rich Eisen goes on vacation. And I love watching him when he fills in on Rich Eisen because he's always informative and funny and interesting and engaging. And I think he's in a lot better place than he was when he was drafted. He was. Whoo boy, he was definitely not a person to talk to those first several years. And he had a lot of issues, but I think he
had a lot of stress, which he admitted was making things a lot worse too. All that stress.
But so the Ryan Leaf Award for somebody who was drafted high, and at this point in their career, you can say they flamed out. They're done.
Yep. I'm calling my shot. I'm calling it early. I don't give a fuck. Zach Wilson is my recipient of this Ryan Leaf Award. Listen, 54 completion percentage, 1,600 yards, 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions was this year. Last year was 55 completion percentage, not much better, but 2,300 yards with 9 touchdowns, and he had 11 interceptions, but at least he had a cannon of a fucking arm. He lost that. Like, I get he played in less games, guys, but the guy is just not good. You drafted him high, and he hasn't been good both years. Do you think he's going to get better? Maybe. But it's a really big maybe.
Yeah, that is a very big maybe. That is a very, very big maybe. I'm trying to find... I know he played here, so... My guy this year went 82 of 140 with a completion percentage of 58.6.
Only a little bit better.
Had 1,143 yards passing.
That's less. Okay, fair.
And 7 touchdowns with 3 interceptions and a rating of 92.6, but a QBR of 48.5. And I am talking about former first-round pick of the New York City Jets, Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I thought about putting him in too, so I'm not going to lie.
And I also thought about Baker.
I also thought about Baker for a second too, but I think Baker overall has been done more dirty by the orgs he's gone to versus him playing bad. Like, he's not a bad player. He's not a bust.
We'll have to see.
He took Cleveland to the playoffs and won a game. He's not a bust. He just isn't. Is he a good QB? Maybe not, but he's definitely at least an average QB. He's not a bust.
Maybe.
Now,
But
for how high he got drafted, arguable.
that's why
I was
putting it out there.
I could definitely agree to being drafted too high, but I don't think I can agree on a bust.
But in this case, Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold, you're the Ryan Leaf winner for me.
Unless you all of a sudden have a great year next year, man, you aren't.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
We'll see, but I don't think so.
I don't think so either. So
I just wanted to throw Zach Wilson under the bus because the Jets team is so good and you're ruining it. Poor Jets fans can't have anything good.
You know what, though? I also threw Sam Darnold under the bus because he was a Jet. Just looking at the amount of talent the Jets have ruined.
I know.
Oh,
God
it's
damn
sad.
Jets. Okay, next one.
You know what? Let's do the Hard Luck Award.
Can I move on to the Hard Luck Award? Okay.
Yeah. I'm moving around a little bit. Let's do Hard Luck.
So, obviously, hard luck can be a player or a team that got done dirty by injuries, basically. Or by some other circumstances that took things way out of whack or way out of order. And kind of just constantly had issues all the time, either through injuries or players doing something wrong and whatever number of things that you can think of.
Exactly.
Coaches leaving, whatever it might be.
Yep. Just every time they looked like they were going to take a step forward, life conspired to knock them backwards.
Yep. So I ended up choosing a team, not an individual player. Though one player has more to blame in this than any of the others, but it is what it is. So the team I chose is the Dolphins. They just can't get anything right. They had such a good potential season, and Tua just kept getting fucking concussions.
So I'm going to make you laugh. My Hard Luck Award recipient was Tua.
See, the only reason I didn't do this because the Dolphins themselves were okay, but they had a lot of other injuries as well that
they didn't
help
Tua,
things.
like, I thought for a minute there at the beginning of the season, he looked like the first pick, the pick that he was supposed to be and everything else, and then concussion. I was like, Jesus!
But the funny thing is, in between the concussions, when he played, he was still looking good in between.
Yes! Oh, but I just feel bad for him.
The Dolphins, I don't care I still stand by what I said before. If Tua is healthy and he plays against the Bills in that game, the Dolphins win that game. I'm still standing by it. I don't care.
So, let's flip that and look at the Perseverance Award, which, in this case, the Perseverance Award is for a team that, you had injuries, you had all these things, things went wrong, things didn't go as you thought they were going to, and it can be a team, it can be a player, but you came out and you punched life in the mouth and you just kept grinding no matter what happened, and you looked good because of it.
Yep. So I chose a team for this one. It's maybe not necessarily a team that you would say really fits fair, but it's still, I feel like they still embody that persevering team, the team that just kind of grinded out wins and just kept pushing no matter what the costs were.
Do they wear blue and white?
They might wear blue and white, and they might be called the Lions.
Not a bad choice.
Yeah. I did have a couple other teams in mind, ones that I think probably suit the award better, but I wanted to give the Lions something. This is what I gave them.
Fantastic. I gave them the NFC Rookie of the Year award, so
I gave them that too. I guess I'm giving the Lions a lot this year, I guess. I never noticed
They're
that.
actually not a bad team. I'm very impressed with the Lions.
They're a team I'm interested in seeing move forward next year and the year after. Like, I'm really interested to see what they do.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I'm curious to see what you ended up choosing. See if it's one of the teams that I thought about or not.
Mine is a team. Definitely a team. But I did not go NFC. I went AFC with my team.
Okay.
And my team might just wear black and yellow. And they might just play in Pennsylvania. And they might just be the Pittsburgh Steelers.
They had
so many things go wrong for them this last year. And then at the end of the season, to finally get Kenny Pickett to start looking good and throwing balls to Pickens and everything started clicking at the end. Pickett to Pickens! At the end of the season, and everything started clicking and looking good. This is a team that's on the rise. And you know what? They almost made the damn playoffs.
I'm not gonna lie. They were on my list. They were number 3. The second team that I was considering that was on my list was the Ravens.
I thought about them too because you lose Lamar,
and you still win games.
You almost damn make the. I think they did make the playoffs, didn't they?
They made the playoffs.
They made the playoffs. You had to face the Bengals again, who stomped the shit out of you. But
yeah, pretty bad too.
But you still made the playoffs without Lamar. Good job. You lost the cog in your offense, and you still found a way to do it.
Yeah.
No, I could totally get behind that.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What do we want to do next? Do you have an idea? Do you have a suggestion?
We still haven't done the most disappointing and most surprising teams.
Let's go ahead and do those. Most disappointing team for you.
So, my most disappointing team happens to reside in the AFC. They are not an NFC team. I know, surprising, right?
Surprise Pikachu face.
They happen to play in the same division as the Chiefs. And they may like to move around a lot. We are talking about the Las Vegas Raiders. Listen, going into this season, I had so the Raiders were 6-11. They had an okay end to their season, but I had so much hype going into this season with Carr being reunited with Devontae Adams, and this is going to be the final thing that the Raiders need to finally put. Now I'm just sad. That's what happened. That's what the season was.
I went to the other division.
Okay.
In fact, I went to the other coast.
Are we going with the Rams?
No.
Oh,
the Rams are on the same coast as Las Vegas.
You're right, and I'm retarded. Good call.
Not a problem. Fantastic. Other coast, my friend. Other coast.
All right, go ahead.
In fact, we're going to the southern coast. To the city of Tampa.
Okay,
Buccaneers,
fair.
you are my most disappointing team of the year because you went out, you got Brady unretired, Brady comes back, and it's flippin' Tom Brady.
It's for that season.
it's flippin' Tom Brady, and then Brady and the rest of you just kind of looked pedestrian.
Meh. Yeah, they just looked meh.
Yeah, you looked flat. You looked like
not
a pancake.
bad, not good, just meh.
You looked like a pancake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have no ass.
No ass, just flat.
Just flat.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
So
I agree
that's
with
my
that.
most disappointing team.
Not what I expected, but I agree with it. I thought for sure you were gonna go Broncos, but
you know, I thought about it, and then I thought maybe it's just the coaching system, and they did have some injuries and some other things that made me go, no.
Fair enough.
Because I think more was expected of Tampa than was expected of the Broncos. They were expected to be legit Super Bowl contenders, and they weren't.
I don't know. A lot of people expected the Broncos when they got the Russell to be able to contend with the Chiefs. A lot of people did expect that to be a 1-2.
Yeah, I didn't.
I thought it was going to be 1-2. I thought they were going to be 3. I had the Raiders at 2, but even the Raiders, neither one of them did good, so it doesn't really matter.
No, and I totally get that. But and the reason I didn't do that was because after Hackett left, they actually looked. There was a semblance of sanity there. So I looked at that and I went, okay, it could have just been the system.
Could have been. We'll find out. Yeah.
All right. What about your most surprising team of the year? There's a couple of teams that could go here.
There is a couple teams that can go here, but it is a team that we have already talked about. And if you watched our video last week, you would probably know which team we're talking about. This is a team that is in the South. They happen to be in Florida. There's only so many options there. Duval! In Jacksonville. Come on, man. I expected them to be better than they were the year prior. I didn't expect them to be already this good. And next year is just going to be even better. And so there's a lot of hype coming in, and they looked really good. And hopefully they can carry that momentum into next year. Making playoffs compared to what they had,
That's not a bad pick. But in this one, I went over to the NFC. In fact, I went to the opposite end of the country from you because I went. You went southwest or southeast.
Did you go?
I went northwest.
Seattle.
I certainly did, because I expected Seattle to just tank out the season and be in competition with Texas and Chicago for the number 1 overall pick, and they made the playoffs. with
Yeah,
a
I know,
quarterback,
right?
Geno Smith. And I was like, why are you relying on Drew Lock and Geno Smith? Because they had the option to trade for Baker. And they were like, nah, we're good. We're going to run with what we got. Are you on drugs?
Are you on drugs?
Are you
I thought the
doing
same thing.
drugs?
Apparently, Pete Carroll's doing lots of drugs, but it's working.
Apparently, whatever he's doing has also had the side effect of allowing his team to experience the same high.
Yeah, right. We're all just high.
Don't know what's going on up there in Seattle, Washington. But you know what?
I don't know. All I think of every time I think of Pete Carroll is I just remember that one fucking TikTok of him like scootering around the fucking building, and that's all I think of is a 75-year-old dude just scooting around in a fucking NFL building.
I can't. You know what? I can't say that
It's
you're wrong
funny.
for that. But
It's
you know
hilarious.
what? Definitely a surprising team. I don't
real,
think
yeah, no, I
anybody
agree.
saw it coming. I don't
no.
think anybody saw the. There's nobody on earth that's going to tell you they saw Walker coming. There's nobody on earth that's going to tell you they saw this from Geno Smith, and there's nobody on earth that's going to tell you that they saw the what's the kid's name? The cornerback. We said it earlier, and I forgot his name already.
Fuck.
Was it Trevin Walker?
Trayvon? No, I don't think it was. No, Trayvon Walker was.
Yeah, no, that's somebody else.
That's over in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Anyway, everybody
I don't
knows who I'm
remember his
talking
name,
about. He's a 5th round cornerback or 4th round cornerback. Same round that they found frickin' Richard Sherman in.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're gonna look it up now, aren't you?
Are you sure he was in? Are you sure he was in the fourth round?
Might have been 4th, 5th, somewhere.
Because fourth round they picked up Kobe Bryant.
I
I don't think it's. I know, right? I don't think that's right.
Yeah, Tariq Woolen.
Tariq Woolen. That he was in the 5th round. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. There we go. We got it. We got there.
Tariq Woolen. So, I mean, if anybody here says they saw him coming, you're a damned liar.
No. Yeah. But he's good.
Yeah.
Very solid.
Oh,
Good
100%. 100%.
Good choice. Good choice.
So there's absolutely, most surprising team indeed to me.
I can understand that. I can understand that for sure. Let's see here. What else do we got left? We still have drafted too high, light bulb, and setting sun. I think those are the only things we got left.
You want to do drafted too high?
Yeah, sure, but I think we picked the same freaking person.
Maybe.
Maybe not,
I may have
guess.
upset you with who I picked.
Maybe. I guess we'll find out.
Go ahead.
I mean, my first one was the guy that got drafted this year. I don't know if you did the same thing or not.
I did it for this year, yes.
Okay. So the person I ended up choosing is I feel like a fairly obvious pick. Like it's not like egregious, but it's like I mean, when you look at the draft, it's hard not to look at it and go, So the guy I end up putting down to get the award of drafted too high is Trayvon Walker. And it just comes down to the very obvious who got drafted 1, who got drafted 2. Oh, Aiden Hutchinson's number 2, who's our NFC Defensive Player of the Rookie of the Year. Oh,
Probably
it's
up for
Aiden
Defensive
Hutchinson.
Player of the Year too, to be honest.
Probably, yeah. Like it's hard not to look at that and go, at bare minimum, you have to argue that he got drafted too high by at least one spot.
I would actually
Probably
agree.
more, but at least one. So, as much as I think Trayvon Walker is still not a bad pick, and I think he will still grow into being a great player, in comparison to who was more ready to play right now, it was Aiden Hutchinson.
100%. I also went with Trayvon Walker. I thought that would upset you just a bit. But we're not saying that Walker is a bad player.
He's not
or that
bad,
he's going to
no.
turn out to be a bust or anything like that. It's
No.
just when you look at the guys who went, look at the draft this last year when he got drafted, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the 2022 draft here real quick, Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson. Hutchinson obviously did well. Derek Stingley Jr. I think that was also one that kind of got drafted a little high in my opinion.
Yeah.
But 35 tackles, 1 interception, and a sack. That's not horrible. And then Sauce Gardner.
Yeah.
So I think you probably take Sauce at 3. Like, Walker could go with... So I would go Hutchinson, Sauce, and then either Walker or Stingley.
Probably Walker. Guys. I probably think I would take Walker over Stingley.
Me too. But there are a lot of other guys that should have gone there too, because you also had, Wilson was 10th overall, Chris Olave was 11th.
Yeah.
There was plenty of other guys who got drafted further down in the first round who could totally have been drafted higher up.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were some guys who were drafted in late rounds who could have been drafted in the first. That's a whole other thing. But no, I 100%, that's also who I had, was Trayvon Walker. I'm not, again, we're not saying he's a bad pick. We're just saying that right now, not the guy. You are not the guy.
Right.
The Light Bulb Award. This is for the team where the light bulb went on, and now their future is so bright they gotta wear shades. Somebody whose team that you're looking at and you're going, okay, that's a light bulb. That's a light bulb moment. They had that bing and everything clicked.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I know who you're going to choose, because there's one of like 2 or 3 teams you could choose.
There's technically 3 teams that were in my running for it, and it's the 3 that you probably think they are, because they're all teams that I've hyped up throughout this entire podcast. Not just this game, not just today, but I mean like in all of the other podcasts we've recorded. So, but it might be not the one you expect. Maybe. I don't know. It is a team that's in the NFC. So that narrows it down significantly. And they happen to wear blue. they are the Lions.
I figured you were going to go with the Lions.
I was originally thinking about going with the Jaguars because I was thinking, well, oh my God, they're obviously, already hitting that, and they're just going to keep getting brighter. And they are. But I want to give it to the Lions because the Jaguars are the obvious ones. They're the ones that a lot of people are going to look at and go, oh my God, look how good they are compared to last season, which is fine. But I think a lot of people are still underrating the Lions, and I still kind of feel like, man, people aren't talking about the Lions. I think that's not... we should talk about them more. And that's more where I came from that. So
I went with the Seahawks. And here's why. They had a really good season. They made the playoffs. They have great young talent. They have a lot of stuff going right for them. And they have a top 5 pick.
Yeah, I can understand it. I just don't know if I would say they're quite there yet. But they might still need another year before they're really there. But maybe. They're close.
They're very close. And they made the playoffs this year. So I can't really say that they don't have a bright future and that the light didn't go on for them. I think the light went on. I think they've got great depth at most of their positions. They could use, and I think it's what they're going to use their draft pick on, they could use some help rushing the quarterback. And I think they're going to look to shore that up with that pick they got from Denver. Thanks, Denver!
Pretty much.
And then our final award, the Setting Sun Award. So the Setting Sun is literally, your team isn't done yet. You're not cooked. They're not about to be at the bottom of the barrel, but the sun is starting to set on this version of your franchise, and it's maybe time to empty out and move on.
Now, there are several teams we could put in here. But there's one that I have great joy in putting into this spot.
Oh, did you put the same team I did put in here?
If they happen to wear green,
and white, yes, you and I are
yellow,
in total agreement.
The Packers are fucking here.
That's who I have. I also considered the Buccaneers.
I considered the Bucs. I also highly thought about putting the Patriots here, but I wasn't quite ready to call that a done thing yet.
Yeah, no, and I think they're more rebuilding.
But they're definitely having issues.
Yeah, but I think with Mac Jones especially, I don't think
it's less of a setting sun. It's more their sun set and now they're rebuilding it.
Yes, I think their sun is already set. I considered putting the Vikings in here.
I don't think we're quite. Again, we're not quite ready for that yet.
I
Right?
know, but it's so
it's
ticky.
not far off.
It's
Yeah,
if we don't do the right things this offseason, we will definitely be in that mode.
we very could be. Yeah, very well could be.
So that's why I said, to me, the setting sun definitely deserves Green Bay. You can list your reasons if you want. I don't think we need to enumerate them.
I also did think about putting the Cowboys in here, but the Cowboys are just good enough still that I don't think they have to prepare for that. I think that
and
might
they
be
have a
next year.
young enough defense that all they really need to do is retool parts of their offense.
Yeah.
I think they'll be all right.
I think they're safe still, which is why I didn't put them in here. I thought about them for a second. It was just like, no, I don't think so. I think they still got another year or two at least before they're in that spot.
A couple of years.
Yeah. So, but the obvious one was the Packers. I mean, if you think about all the other teams you have, I mean, the Bears are kind of already still kind of in their rework. The Patriots are already kind of in their rework. The Steelers are already kind of pulling out of their rework. The Ravens don't really have anything to worry about. I mean, if you look at all of the teams, I mean, there's just not that many that make it obvious for teams that are falling down significantly, that don't have something to look forward to already, right? And the Packers are just one of those teams where I look at them and I go, man, you guys got really nothing going for you. You don't have a QB really. Like, yeah, Rodgers is great and all, but let's be honest, like, he's older. He's not going to stick around very long.
And let's be honest,
you have
he's
some
also
core
probably
issues.
gone this season.
If he doesn't retire, he's probably getting traded. I mean, your wide receiver core is still kind of young and inexperienced. You have an O-line that is questionable. Your defense, questionable at times. I mean, there's just not a lot to look forward to in comparison to some of the other bad teams. Like, I think the Texans next year are going to look like a fun team to watch. I think the Bears will be a fun team to watch next year. I mean, the only other team that I could put that on is New Orleans, and they've already kind of hit that.
That's what I was going to say. That would have been last year or the year before, the first year that Drew Brees retired. You just went, there you go. That's your team.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't throw Tampa on here, is because as soon as Brady retired, that was it. If he had stuck around, I might have thrown them in here because of the way that he looked and everything else. I'd have been like, that's all right. The sun is setting on that. But again, with Rodgers, he's still around. And I think it's funny that we're throwing... we're giving them the Setting Sun Award while Rodgers is beginning his darkness retreat.
Yeah. I think the only other team that I could have considered putting in here that would be legitimate contenders would be like, and not even like that good a legitimate, would be like the Titans, because there's still questions on like what's going on with Ryan Tannehill. Why is that not working anymore? Derrick Henry can't run the entire offense. You've already traded away some of your good wide receivers that you did have, and your defense just hasn't shown up. What's going on? So it's hard not to look at the Titans and go, are they kind of on a downward trend already? Did they already peak?
I think we're going to find out whether or not, just how good a coach Mike Vrabel is, and we're going to find out if the new GM can handle a lot of stuff, because they've got a lot of decisions to make, and they're going to have to figure out what they want to do with that team. Do you want to strip it out and maybe go for a rebuild quick? And I'm the guy who, in my viewpoint, as soon as you start trending downward, if you still have players that have good value, you trade them. You get as much as you possibly can to go for a rebuild. I'm that weird guy who I don't mind trading a superstar. Like, if the Titans traded Derrick Henry and got a whack of crap for him that would make them better in the future, I would wave him goodbye and pack his bags for him and drive him to the airport. But that's because I'm a weirdo about stuff like that. I understand that as a fan we can get connected to players. Like, I really love Adam Thielen, but if we got a good offer for him, I'd drive him to the airport myself. Same for Dalvin Cook. Same for, it hurts me to say that Harrison Smith has to go. But you know what? Harrison Smith has to go. I've been a Dirty Harry fan for probably close to a decade at this point. And I love that player. Since he's been in the league, 2012, I believe he came into the league.
Somewhere, yeah.
Fantastic player, absolutely smashing in the backfield back there, in the secondary. Great player. I was a big fan of Xavier Rhodes. And then he fell off, and I knew it was time to get rid of him. I like. I get it. When it's time to go, it's time to go. I was sad to see Peterson go, but you know what? There you go. So in the end, like I'm that guy who I believe that if your team is beginning to fall apart and you still have one or two good players, that you should absolutely not try to hang on to them, that you should absolutely trade them and get the most whacked out package you possibly can get for them, and then use that to draft better players. Go for futures. Mm-hmm. Go for because the idea in the draft is the more picks you have, the higher chance you have of hitting on something. It's the same in the NHL. So you trade a player off and you get a whack of future crap, and you just stockpile your draft and you try to do the best that you can to rebuild your team. And I honestly think that would work better than trying to hold on to faded glory, because the longer you try to hold on to the faded glory, the worse the fall is going to be when it inevitably comes, and the longer it's going to take you to get out of it. See the Jets, see what's about to happen to the Packers, see what happened to the Chicago Blackhawks. Ugh. Yeah. So I understand there's an emotional attachment to players.
Look at the Colts.
Or the Colts, yeah. But, I mean, I understand there's emotional attachments to players, but at a certain point, when it has inevitably become clear that what you have has run its course, cut bait, stop trying to fish. And you sometimes, if you cut bait early enough, you get enough good crap back that your rebuild becomes a season or two rather than a decade. You don't have to spend 5 seasons rebuilding or longer. You can literally rebuild in like 1 or 2 seasons because you traded all your superstars. You have a crap team. You know you're going to have a crap team, but you did good on the trades. You got good stuff back for them. And now you can rebuild through smart, savvy draft picks and through smart free agency moves because you cleared all your cap space. That's how I look at it. Again, I'm weird about stuff like that. So, like when Chicago, the Cubs, traded off a whole bunch of players, and everybody went, "Why would you do that? You're just going to make the team bad." Yeah, for a couple of seasons, but did you see what they got back? A whack of futures. That's the point. You can't trade draft picks in the MLB, but they got a whack of young prospect players in those trades. And who knows, maybe you could have kept them, maybe you couldn't have. But you know what? You traded them all off and you got prospects back that you can develop and bring along. And now you're going to have that, every team runs its course. Sometimes you kickstart your own decline so that your decline doesn't last as long, because then you can spring up when you hit the bottom. Rather than thudding into the bottom because you weren't ready for it, you prep yourself, you know you're going to jump off the cliff, you know you're going to fall, and you prep yourself to fall. And then you just hit the bottom and you jump back up because you're ready for it. You've made preparations. Right. And I think that's I think is a smart way to run a team, but I think there's a lot of fans that would disagree with me on that.
Probably.
So, but
that's what it is, though.
That's why, you know what? At this point, if I was the Packers, I would trade off anything that had value, Rodgers, and anything else that I could that I thought somebody would pay for, and I'd go for a full rebuild.
They probably won't, though.
No, they won't. They got too much pride. They
also think Jordan Love's their next savior, apparently. Guess we'll find out.
We'll find out, I guess. We'll find out.
Listen, all I'm going to say this is I'm going to be real mad as a Vikings fan if Jordan Love turns out to be another fucking MVP quarterback somehow. I'll be fucking pissed. 3 in a fucking row. Fuck you, Packers. Fuck you.
Okay. Also, late round guys.
Oh my god.
Anyways. All right. So that's the end of the awards segment. Let's do a hockey corner. You want to do a hockey corner?
Sure, go ahead.
We got time.
Yeah.
All right, hockey corner. I've been putting it off for a while now, so let's talk about it. We're going to talk about the upcoming NHL trade deadline, some players that are probably going to be on the move, and maybe why they're on the move. I'm not going to speculate as to where they're going to go because there's a lot of teams in the running. We're also going to talk about some players that are on the market that may not move and why they may not move. So we're going to start with the one that we know is definitively going to be on the move. So I would have had Bo Horvat and Vladislav Tarasenko on this, or Vladimir Tarasenko on this list. But they both already got traded, so they're not on this list. The one that is on this list is Jacob Chychrun. Plays defense for the Arizona Coyotes. You've heard me mention him on this channel before. Great player. He's currently inactive until he gets traded because they don't want to risk him getting injured and then not being able to trade him. Great defenseman. I believe he plays on the right side. Can lead the power play. Headman a power play. He can I believe he can also help on the penalty kill. Plays very, very well. Plays a great set of games. Good size. And he's definitively he's stated that he wants out of Arizona. He has attempted to ask them for trades for a while now. He still has like 3 years on his contract, which is a very player-friendly, or a very, not player-friendly, a very club-friendly contract. It's like $4 million a year, which is, for a player of his caliber, it's stupid. But he doesn't want to hang around for the full rebuild. He definitely wants to go somewhere now. So he's definitely on the move. I don't know where. He's been linked to so many teams at this point. He's been linked to Toronto and Edmonton and just all over the place. So I don't know where he ends up going, but I know he's going to go somewhere. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he went somewhere right after we went off the air. That's how, like, there was a joke meme running around during the Super Bowl that if Chychrun got traded at the halftime of the Super Bowl, that Rihanna had better take to the mic and announce the trade. So Chychrun is definitely going to be a guy on the move. The San Jose Sharks have 2 players that could potentially move. They could probably move more than that, but to be honest, there's really 2 players that everybody's looking at. One of them is a guy named Timo Meier. He's a classic, what we would call a power forward. Throws a lot of hits, can do a lot of things with the puck, scores goals, makes assists. Got a very player-friendly, not player-friendly, god damn it, why do I keep saying that? A very club-friendly deal. He's only got 1 year left on it, though, so you're either looking at him as a rental or you're trying to sign him long-term. But he's absolutely probably on the move somewhere. I don't know where he goes. I don't know where it makes sense. There's been talk of him going to Toronto as well, because Toronto could really use a top guy, a top winger on that line to play with Matthews and Marner. Because Willie plays really well on the second line. So, I mean, what do you do? You know, if you're them, are you trying to pay that amount of money for them? It's very weird. So he's probably on the move. The other guy the Sharks have that could be on the move, but I'm going to say he's not going anywhere. Erik Karlsson. He is lighting the league on fire defensively right now. He is just points-wise. The dude is murdering the puck at this point. He's scoring goals. He's assisting. He's a little older, but the problem is his contract is like $11 million a year or something, $13 million, some ridiculous number. And that's the problem. Even if I'm sure the Sharks are not going to, because you can retain up to half when you trade. There's no way the Sharks are going to eat $6 million or so, $5 million in dead cap. That's just not going to happen. So the problem is you have to find a team that he'd be willing to go to, because I'm pretty sure he has an NMC. You'd have to find a team he'd be willing to go to. You have to find a team that can absorb his cap hit, and then you have to find a team, it's just, I think it's going to be a headache, and I don't think he moves. Just, all right, the Blues. The Blues still have some pieces that could move. You have Barbashev, even Ivan Barbashev, I believe his name is. He's probably going to be traded out because I believe he only has 1 year left on his deal. And Ryan O'Reilly, who is not having a great year statistically. He is their captain. There is a good chance, though, that he is on the move somewhere. He's also been linked to Toronto. He's been linked to a lot of places. I don't know where he's going. I really don't. I know he's leaving St. Louis. I just don't know to where yet. Vancouver still has players to move. In fact, pretty much at this point in Vancouver, Anything that isn't nailed down is up for trade. So Brock Besser has been one that's come out, and it's been said that Minnesota might try to make a play for Besser, mostly because I believe, if I'm right, he's from Minnesota, and he would welcome a return to the state. Speaking of Minnesota, Matt Dumba is most likely on the block.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So the reason for that is he's got 1 year left on his deal. He makes like $7.5 million. The Wild themselves are kind of in cap hell at this point. It's a self-inflicted cap hell, but it's one they needed to have anyway because they bought out Suter and Parise, and I believe that peaks next year at like $13 million in dead cap space. So clearing off clearing off Dumba's contract, you're not going to have the room to re-sign him. So getting something for him at the deadline, I think, is going to be a necessity. I'm fairly certain he's gone at the deadline because I don't think Minnesota is going to risk not being able to bring him back.
Right.
Billy G, though, is a hard bargainer. He has stated, make it make sense for us if you want him. I don't know how much they can get for him because he hasn't had a great season. Jordan Greenway could also be gone. That's been another one that's been talked about. Move him as well. I don't know how much I like that, but I would understand the fiscal necessity to do so. Not really sure I like either of those. And then, as we mentioned earlier, the Chicago Blackhawks. Again, that's a team that if it's not nailed down, they could probably sell. They're definitely looking to sell off both Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews, the last remnants of their big cup runs. They're both in the last year of their deals. Neither one of them has any interest at their age sticking around for a rebuild. Toews is more likely to move than Kane right now. Kane has been playing through some kind of hip injury. And it's affected his numbers a lot. His numbers are way down. So if it's decided that his hip injury is bad enough to need surgery, it's entirely possible that what he could do is do a solid for the Blackhawks, come back on a club-friendly 1 year deal for them, put up good numbers next year, and be traded off at the deadline so they can still get pieces for him. Taves has had an okay year. I'll guarantee you he's gone. There's been talk about him going to Colorado, perhaps. The Blackhawks would like to keep Max Domi. I don't know if they can. There's been a bit of, maybe Max Domi could go to Toronto where his dad, Ty, played. The Albanian assassin, Ty Domi. And they still have a lot of ties in the Toronto area, so it would make sense for him to go to Toronto. But I don't know if that's something that's going to happen or not. Philadelphia is looking at dumping out James Van Riemsdyk at this point, and I don't think that's a bad choice. He's older, definitely doesn't fit with what they're trying to do in Philadelphia right now. I don't know that he's a Tortorella type of player, so I'm pretty sure he's gonna be on the move. I don't know who would take him on at this point. Like I said, outside of that, those are the big ones that I know are probably going to move at this point. There are other guys floating around. Sean Corrali from Columbus is probably going to be gone. And I don't, there's a bunch of little depth players that almost always get traded at these deadlines. And, you never know who it's going to be until it happens.
Exactly.
Huh?
So exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So, with the deadline coming up, look for there to be some good activity this year. I think you're going to see a lot of big names move. The deadline is March? Hold on. I'll be able to tell you. It's either the end of February or the beginning of March.
I thought it was beginning March, but I don't remember.
I don't remember if it moved this year or not. NHL Trade deadline. March the 3rd.
March the 3rd.
Friday, March the 3rd is your trade deadline. So that is the day you're going to start ramping up and seeing some things moving before then. And the only reason you're going to start seeing things moving before then is because the Bo Horvat trade already went down, and now the Tarasenko trade has gone down. So teams are going to start moving around. You could also see out of Arizona, you could see them get rid of potentially Karel Vejmelka. their goalie, who's been really, really good between the pipes for them this year. And any team that needs a goalie could suddenly, come calling and going, hey, what do you want for Vamelka? And because, the Coyotes are trying to tank and get into the, let's be bad for Bedard sweepstakes, they could totally look at that and go, okay, he's too good to be here. And they could totally, trade him off and get some more pieces. So I think that's kind of what we're looking for at the trade deadline. I think it's going to be an interesting one to watch, personally. I don't know beyond that, but I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a wild one.
Right.
Yep.
Agree with that.
All right. Let's see here. Do we have anything else we want to talk about? I know it's going to be a light show this week, but
I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about, yeah.
Yeah, that's
I think
part
it's
of
just
the
going to end
problem.
up being a slightly lighter show. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
I think we still ended up with probably a close to 2-hour show here, so
Well, we'll
I think
see.
we're good.
In that case, this is kind of where we're going to end it today. Right after the hockey corner, bam! Coming up, we are going to try to do a redraft of an old draft at some point. I don't know when we're going to get to that.
Don't know either.
We are not going to do a mock draft until after free agency is opened up, because there's no point to doing it until you see who signs what. Everybody that's doing it now is you're looking at it and you're going, okay, this team and this team and this team aren't going to get the quarterbacks they're looking for, so they're going to get quarterbacks. And it's like,
they're going to try to get something.
Like, you can do the first couple of picks, but after that, everything is kind of up in the air as to who signs what in free agency.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you got to look at that, and then we are going to start. The NHL is starting to ramp up for the trade deadline, so we may start covering some more of that stuff. And we'll see where everything goes, but we're going to keep up with the shows. I did just put up another trade dissection. For those of you that haven't seen it, go and take a look at that. It was a fun little trade that results in 5 NBA titles. I did make one mistake in it, and I said it resulted in every title from the 08-09 season to the, I believe I said 12-13, but I forgot the 10-11 season. So it results in titles in 08-09, 9-10, bloop, 11-12, and 12-13.
Ah, nice.
So I missed it. It's 4 out of 5 years. I did screw that up, but you know what? It's okay.
Close enough.
The one that I'm working on next is another hockey one, and it's going to again bring to the fore the old adage: if you made a trade with the Atlanta Thrashers, you won that trade.
Nice.
So that'll be a fun one. It involves the Ottawa Senators as well, for any Senators fans that we have. But let's be honest, we have 11 people that watch this, so
probably none.
I would guess we don't have any Senators fans, but you never know. Hey, Senators fans, hi.
Go away. Just go away. We don't want you here.
No, I don't want any Winnipeg Jets fans.
Oof. That's just mean.
Fuck the Jets.
Wow. Somebody doesn't like the Jets.
No, I don't. I hate the Jets almost as much as I hate the Colorado Avalanche.
I mean, I'm not a fan of the Avalanche, but Jets, really? Jeez.
Yeah, I just don't like them.
Fair enough.
You know what, though? I do have one of our teams that's a rival team for us I do kind of like, and that's the Predators. But that's kind of because I feel bad for them.
Yeah, I don't feel bad about anything.
All right. Alrighty. So, thanks a lot, guys. In the meantime, we want everybody here, if you like what we do, if you think that we're deserving of it, in fact, even if you don't, fuck that. Hit like, hit subscribe. Do it anyway. We're telling you to do it. In the meantime, Bearded Nation, stay bearded, stay awesome. Have a great day. Have a great week. We'll see you again next week. Bearded Brothers, outro. See you later. La, 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 la.